All right, so this video is going to focus again on inverse trig functions, 8.4. I'm going to go over some of the homework questions that maybe you struggled with last night, and hopefully this helps going forward. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I picked 3 questions out that I'm going to focus on. They're going to be number 33, 40, and 44. So first thing, in number 33 and the problems in this section, they were asking you to find angle T. So they gave you a right triangle, they gave you sides of the triangle, but a missing angle. Anytime you're trying to find a missing angle, so let's see, missing angle, we have to use inverse trig functions, right? So anytime you're finding an angle, always inverse trig functions. Sides for trig functions, angles, inverse trig functions. So let's come down here to our missing angle, angle T. That's the angle that we're trying to find, right? Most of the time they'll use theta as the variable for that, which is this symbol here, the Greek letter. So from this angle, right, this is our right angle. So across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. From this angle, this would be the opposite side, and this would be the side next to it, or the adjacent side. So we're going to go all the way back to this, our little mnemonic device, SOHCAHTOA. Remember, if I have the opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent of my missing angle, my unknown, is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Now, in order to solve for this angle, and I'm trying to find that angle T, I need to get rid of this tangent. In order to get rid of tangent, I take inverse tangent. Tangent and inverse tangent are opposite functions. They'll cancel each other out. I have to do the same thing to this side, inverse tangent. So my angle is just inverse tangent of 8 over 12. So I'm going to pull up my calculator here. Let's get rid of the answers here. So inverse tangent in mine, let's see if you can see in the yellow. I'm trying to zoom in here. So in the yellow, it says tangent to the -1. That's inverse tangent. So wherever that is in your calculator, you can do that even on your phones, I believe. So inverse tangent of 8 divided by 12. Make sure you're in degree mode. And that's going to give me a decimal of 33.7 rounded to the nearest tenth. So 33.7 degrees. And the book does say round to the nearest tenth. So that's what we'll go with. All right, in the next example, it looks something like this. This is number 40. So in number 40, they ask us to find angle T again. So we're still trying to find angle T. So angle T is up here. That's my missing angle. This is my hypotenuse, my opposite, and my adjacent. So I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So if we come back to our mnemonic device, adjacent hypotenuse, that's going to be cosine. So if I have cosine of my missing angle, that's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Right, now you could just take the inverse cosine of both sides. So that gets rid of that. And then you could type this into your calculator, or you could also recognize that the root 2's will cross out. So really you just need to take the inverse cosine of 3 over 7. So if I do the inverse cosine of 3 divided by 7, that should give you 64.6 degrees. 64.6 degrees for that angle there. So that's not too bad as long as you have the setup. Now in problems like number 44, that section, they were asking you to solve for the triangle, solve for all of the missing pieces. So we need to find these 2 angles, because we know this angle. And I also need to find this missing side. So let's find the missing side first. Missing side, this LK, right, that missing side, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to do 8 squared plus b squared equals 22 squared. Remember, the hypotenuse is always your c value that's by itself. So if I go 8 squared that is 64. 22 squared, 22 times 22 is 484. Well, and how am I going to get rid of that 64? Let's subtract it over, and we get 420. Take the square root to get rid of it. So the square root of 420 is 420 a perfect square. So if you think back, way back to our perfect square list, would 420 be on there? What do we think? I think the answer is probably no, right? But there is a perfect square that goes into it. 4 goes into it. 4 goes into 4 once. It goes into 25 times. So 4 times 105 is 420. The square root of 4 is 2. So 2 root 105. So this is 2 root 105. All right, and I believe the directions for this one said nearest tenth as well. So if we change that, it's around 20.5. So you could just say this is 20.5. Okay, so that's the side. Now for the angle, let's work with angle J down here first. From that angle, let's use the adjacent side and the hypotenuse, the two sides that were given. So adjacent over hypotenuse is cosine. So cosine of the angle J is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So now it goes back to the questions that we did first. How do I get rid of cosine? Cosine inverse. So I'm just taking the cosine inverse of 8 over 22. See what that is. Should come out to around 68.7 degrees. Now you could set up another trig function to find k. However, we know that there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So 180 minus 90 is 90. And then 90 minus 68.7, that gives us 21.3. So this would be 21.3 degrees here. This is going to be 68.7 degrees here. So we filled in all of the missing pieces of a triangle using our inverse trig functions and our Pythagorean theorem. So that's the homework. That's what it should look like for at least those 3 problems. The other problems are pretty similar. I'm going to give you some more problems to try out today. Like I said, make sure you're in degree mode. If you like the video, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you're watching and taking notes. So we'll stop there for today. See you tomorrow.